Hi, today we're going to go over Photoshop Assignment 12. So go into the Hand-In folder and open up the Assignment 12 folder. There are 3 pictures in here, which I have, but I would like you to use 3 of your own photos. Okay? So choose 3 of your own photos and open them in Photoshop. Okay. So here we have the 3 files we're going to need for today's Photoshop tutorial. Okay, the first thing we want to do is crop all 3 of these photos so that they're a little bit more close up. We just want the face, actually. So I'll go like this. Bring this in and double click to confirm that crop. Go here again, zoom out a bit, and we just want a close-up here. Double click to confirm that, and as well on the final photo here. Take a quick crop. And double click, there we go. So our 3 photos are now ready to go. Now, what we want to do is on 2 of our photos, the 2 that we want, we're going to make it look like this photo is made up of 2 of the other photos. So with these 2 photos that are going to make up our final photo, we are actually going to adjust the size of the image. So for this one, let me just crop it a little bit better. If I hold shift and crop it, you'll notice that it makes a perfect square, and that's kind of what we want actually for this assignment. So hold shift while cropping your photos, and that'll make it fit a bit better. Okay? So there we go. They're perfectly square, both of these. Now what I want to do is go to Image, Adjust, and I want to adjust the image size to be 50 pixels. Okay, 50 pixels. Click OK. There it is. I'm going to do the same with my other photo. Image, adjust, image size, and set that to be 50 pixels, and it's 50 by 50. Perfect. Now we're going to create a brand new canvas. So create a new file. And let's make this one, because our files are 50 pixels wide, let's make it 100 by 100. Click OK. So there we have our canvas. Now going to the first photo, take my Move tool and drag this photo onto that document. Okay? Now we actually need 2 of these. But if you remember, if I hold Alt and click and drag, it duplicates that image. Okay? Do the same with this photo. Hold Alt, click and drag, and we now have what is going to be our pattern. Now we need to actually create a pattern out of this. So the first thing we need to do is put this all on one layer. So let's go to Layer, and we will flatten the image. So it's made it one layer. Now we're going to remove the color. Image, Adjust, Desaturate. Now it is black and white. Now, very similarly to the way we defined a brush, we are going to define a pattern. So we go to Edit, Define Pattern. And this is going to be Saretta Wicked Pattern. There we go. And we're good. We can now go back to our main image. And what we want to do is create a... First of all, let's copy this just to make sure we don't mess it up. Let's create a new image on top. And this is where our pattern is going to be. Okay, so what we're going to do is on this new layer, we're going to go to Edit, we're going to go to Fill, and in the past we've used colors, but we can also use a pattern. So there are patterns that are built in, but we can see that the pattern I've just created has been added. So I click on that, click OK, there it is. Okay, so it's filled the entire screen with that pattern. Now we can change our blending mode to overlay, and it creates that effect. Okay, so we're almost done. We're going to add some text to this as well. So what I'm going to do is grab my text tool, and I'm going to type in the person's name here, and this is Mr. Walks. Okay, maybe pick a larger font. And again, I can Command T to transform that if I want it to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so there's our text. And I'm just going to make that text black for now. Okay. All right. Now moving on. What we want to do is we want to turn off these bottom layers. Okay? And we want to make a selection of this text. So in the exact same fashion we did before, if we hold Command and click on the object right here, it makes a selection. So I can create a new layer, and I'm going to fill it with gray. So I'm going to fill with a color, and what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to type in an exact shade. So I can do that down here where this little number sign is. And the shade I'm going to fill it with is 595959. Okay? Click OK. Click OK, and it has now filled it with that gray color. I'm now also going to add a stroke to this while it's still selected. So I'm going to go to Edit, Stroke, set it to Inside, and I'm going to make this 5 pixels and change the color to black. And then click OK. And then click OK. And we've added the stroke. Now what we're going to do is create another new layer on top of this, keeping our selected area. And we are going to go to Select, Modify, and we are going to Contract and set this to 15 pixels. Click OK. Now if it gives you an error saying no pixels selected, just do a Command Z and do the same thing again, select, modify, contract, and pick a lower number, okay, until it gives you something like this where it's selected just the insides. We are now going to fill this section with white. So you can go to Edit, Fill, or I'm just going to do my Command and backspace because I've reset my default colors. Now we're going to blur this a little bit by going to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, changing this to 5-ish. Click OK, and then change this to Overlay. So it gives a nice effect there. Okay. Now we want to go back to our stroked layer of text right here, and we want to drag this down to the new layer icon. So that will create a copy. Okay? And then Command click to select it so it selects that entire outside again. Now we're going to work with something different here. We're going to work with this channels. So you can see RGB, red, green, and blue. And what we're going to do is we are going to click the Save Selection Channel button, which is down here. Okay? So that is the Save Selection as a channel, and it does that and creates this thing called alpha. We're now going to grab the alpha 1 layer and drag that down to the Create a New Layer button. Okay? And we want to make sure that we kept this selection. Now we're going to run a Gaussian blur 4 times with different settings. So we're going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. We're going to set this to 9 pixels. Click OK. We're then going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, and we are going to run it again at 6 pixels. We are then going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, do this again at 3 pixels. Click OK. And then Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur, and do it one final time at 1 pixel. Click OK. And it should look something like that. So if I deselect that, that's what it looks like now. Okay? So we're going to go back to our layers now. And we're going to click on this layer to copy. So click on it. And what we're going to do now is go to Layer and create a new adjustment layer. And we're going to create this curves. Click OK. And here it is. Now what we want to do is pull this part up a little bit, and you can see what it's doing. It's brightening it up. And then about here, we're going to pull this one down. Oh, maybe not so much. To darken it a bit more. And now we're going to add some hue and saturation to this layer by going to Layer, New, we're going to go to New Adjustment Layer, and we are going to add a hue saturation. Okay, click OK, and here it is. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure we check off Colorize. We're now going to set the hue to 33. You can type this in here if it's being a pain. Set the saturation to 50 and leave the lightness at 0. Okay? Now we're going to go to Layer, and we are going to Merge Visible, which will compact all the layers we currently have showing into one. Alright, then we can turn on these 2 layers, and there's our final product, which you can now go File, Save As, and this time it's named something different, and because it's one of your photos that you're going to be using, it's going to have a different name as well. So you're going to put your last name, followed by an underscore, followed by assignment 12. Make sure you save that to your desktop, click Save, click OK, and hand that into the Dropbox.